You like it. Oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Just singing war. Okay, welcome to the Cold War 1970s. We'll see Nixon come into office in 1968, and much of the focus early on will still be on Vietnam. But as we go, the relationship between China and the Soviet Union and the United States will become better in some ways, but by the end of the 1970s, our relationship with the Soviet Union will be on the rise again. The tensions will mount for a couple reasons we'll get to, and then we'll also see why Carter didn't win re-election to Reagan in 1980. Iran hostage crisis. Let's go. Okay, when Nixon comes into office, he will be a minority president, meaning that he'll win the Electoral College in 1968, but he will not win the popular vote. This might have something to do with what he'll do policy-wise with Vietnam. And when he ran, his thing was winning a Vietnam war with dignity. He kind of understood people wanting to get out of that, but he doesn't really say much of what he's going to do. And so when he gets into office, we got a couple things that come out. The first is the Nixon Doctrine, which will be an overall theme of Nixon's presidency, saying, hey, look, we'll honor our commitments, especially in the Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam right now, but we're really not going to go to war with for any other nations or really help develop third world countries. It's just not worth it for us. And we can see what happened with Vietnam. So we're not going to do it. His specific policy in Vietnam will be something called Vietnamization. Basically, he wants to decrease the amount of soldiers, which is over 500,000, and you can see it in that picture, to lower it to where we just give cash, advisors, and support. And at some point, the South Vietnamese will be able to fight on their own. Okay, and so this is important. However, there's going to be some things that are going to increase the pressure on Nixon to get out. First, the bombing of Cambodia. Him and Henry Kissinger, his advisor from Harvard, who was really a main catalyst in his foreign policy, will decide that they need to invade and first bomb Cambodia and Laos, where there's all these bases that allow for invasion in the South Vietnam. Okay, and this will cause an uproar. Now, the anti-war protests were kind of dying down. But because of that bombing in Cambodia, this is where we get Kent State. You saw the video, the song, Ohio, and so talking about this, the massacre on that university, and we'll kind of go everywhere. Add on to that something called the Pentagon Papers that were leaked, started in the New York Times, basically saying JFK and LBJ made it seem way worse than it is to get us kind of into this war. And so that is not a good look. And so Nixon's going to start looking for a way out. And then we're going to get the passing of the 26th Amendment that allows 18-year-olds to vote. 18-year-olds are also those people that can be drafted. And so it's like, Nixon, if you want to win re-election, might be a good idea to get out. This looking for a way out in Vietnam also led to a policy with the Soviet Union and China called Detente. It's a French word meaning easing or relaxed tensions between nations. And really what Nixon's trying to do is play these two communist countries, which don't have a great relationship, off on each other, right? They both want to be kind of world powers, which is ironically not what communism is about. But yeah, they want to be each world powers, so they're kind of rivals. And so Nixon wants to use that to play them off of each other. And he visits China first, and it gives a fear to the Soviet Union that we're going to build really good and close relationships with China. And so then after that visit in 1972, he visits the Soviet Union and now has some leverage because they also need grain from us. And then we also can negotiate what was called the SALT, okay, which stands for Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, kind of one of those nuclear treaties that we're going to see. And so this is also going to ease those tensions that they're really supporting North Vietnam and allow us to get out of North Vietnam, to allow that nation to basically figure out themselves after, the Soviet Union and the United States and China had tried to figure it out for them. So this is a really important policy, and it will ease tensions, although those will rise back up when we get into Carter's presidency. Okay, after that Cambodia bombing in 1970, Congress will start getting mad at what's happening, and they'll pull that kind of the blank check that they gave LBJ after the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. And then in 1973, we'll give the War Powers Resolution, which will basically curtail the power of the presidency in regards to how he can use troops. Like, say, if he's going to commit troops, he has to notify Congress within 48 hours. And then he has to get permission, basically, from Congress, or she, from Congress within 60 days to keep troops in foreign areas. So you have to get authorization. So it's really going to try to limit the ability of the president to use troops, and that's because of what happened with Vietnam from 63, 64 to 73, where we get the Paris Peace Accords. Now, these come about, Nixon has to use, he'll have to, because North Korea will kind of step away from the peace treaties. He'll use the B-52s to bomb North Korea, to come back to the table, and then we'll be able to leave, and we'll get peace with honor, is what Nixon will say. But basically, he gives 30% of control of South Vietnam to North Vietnam. He allows their troops to stay there. We get many of our POWs back that North Vietnam had. But we really just set up that, hey, we're going to let South Vietnam fall at some point. And then in 1975, this will occur, and we'll kind of cut off money. Congress will say, no, we're not going to give money to South Vietnam, kind of going back to the idea of Vietnamization, and they will fall to North Vietnam. And our last airplane, and this is the famous picture from the top of the embassy, will leave April 29, 1975. And if you remember or were able to watch Father Tien's video, this is where, in the time period, he lived as a child in South Vietnam. And so all those people that had helped the United States in South Vietnam were put in prisons, tortured, tried to escape, as Father Tien did and successfully did after many attempts, which is an awesome story to talk to him about. But yeah, so our experiment in Vietnam failed drastically, and really has left a scar on the United States and what we do from there when we talk about foreign entanglements. Okay, I'm going to jump right towards or to President Carter, who will be at the end. President Nixon will resign after Watergate. Ford will become the president. He won't do much foreign policy-wise. He'll have the Helsinki Accords, I believe what they're called, and basically finishing up the border with Poland and the Soviet Union. But Carter does some things when he comes in that are notable. And the first is he brokers peace between Egypt and Israel. They had fought. Israel had gained a bunch of land in 1967. And so these Camp David Accords are really big for this area. Israel promises to give that land back, and Egypt is going to recognize Israel's borders. So this was huge for Carter. He's also going to say that we're going to give the Panama Canal back by the year 2000. And so he does some good things. But during this time, we will see the escalation of tensions with the Soviet Union. For many reasons, the Cuban troops with Soviet military advisors are going to try to basically get communist revolutions going in such nations as Ethiopia. And so that's not going to foster a good relationship. And then also you're going to get the Soviet Union invading Afghanistan, which is an interesting story leading up to 9/11 and the war on terrorism. But we get that. And so tensions with the Soviet Union are high to the point that President Carter actually tells the American people that, hey, look, if it gets really bad, be ready for another draft. Didn't go over very well, okay? And you can imagine why. You also get the SALT II fell apart in Congress. Okay, this was on top of that first treaty that was signed. And what really sets Carter he has no chance to win a presidential election is the Iran hostage situation. 52 Americans will be held hostage for 440 days. President Carter doesn't handle it necessarily the best. He tries to use economic sanctions, and this is all after the Shah that we had supported, the Western countries and the U.S. had supported, was overthrown by Iranian Islamists in 1979, and this hostage situation happened in the same year. But these militants stormed the embassy, take it over, hold these hostages. There's pictures like this that come out, and Carter tries economic sanctions. He tries world basically wide opinion of it. Doesn't work. He tries to send in commandos, and there's some accidents. Planes run into each other. That doesn't look, and we just can't do anything right with that situation, and full blame goes to Carter. And so we won't win the election in 1982, Ronald Reagan. But that's basically the 1970s foreign policy. We're at a point after Nixon where tensions had eased, and then when we get to Reagan, and he's going to take a hard stance, especially with the Soviet Union, they will rise. Although Carter did really start democratic relations with China. So he did do some good stuff, but Iran hostage situation and the escalation of tensions with Soviet Union kind of killed him. All right, 1970s foreign policy, done. Back to the jams.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.